Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Canary Room. I'm counting, I think it's episode 12 of the show. If we take our double episode feature from Keith Ferries, it's episode 12 of season 4. A huge thanks to everyone who's been in touch with the channel. Huge thanks to Keith Ferry for his time, and there's been some incredible feedback to the mini-series that Keith and I have put together. We will be back with Keith through the malt when we look at colour feeding and then preparing birds for the show bench. So a kind of mini-series of the Norwich as well. But if you're not a Norwich fancier, doesn't matter, there is plenty of good husbandry advice in it. Whilst I'm thanking people, huge thanks to everyone who's donated to the channel, to Mike Burling. Mike, you're a legend. To William Coleman, to Leslie Morgan, and to Martin Gentles. Thank you everybody for your very kind donations. If you are able to, if you look at our homepage on the YouTube channel, on a laptop or desktop computer, you'll see there's a little donate button there. All of the money that you donate goes to running the channel, so it's very much appreciated. It helps offset some of the costs that I incur on the on-the-road trips. And speaking of on-the-road trips, well, we've got some real treats in store for you. So we're into the authors tour now. We've been to see Terry Kelly. That episode is coming up next. Terry, legend in the Fife Fancy. And we'll be seeing later on Bernard Williams. And Bernard, again, another author, British Birds and Mules and Hybrids. So very much looking forward to him. On the show today, well, it's been a while since we've been in the room, so thrills, spills and heartaches as always. We've got the Norwich Notebook, we'll catch up with the Fifes. Native Diaries, very, very exciting news in the Native Diaries. The New Colour Corner, Bird of the Week, and because it's our first episode in June, we've got the to-do list as well. Stay tuned right until the very end. As always, grab yourself a cuppa, sit back and enjoy the show. Well, it's kind of the business end of the breeding season with the Fife Canaries. And, you know, one of the things that I'm looking at now is, you know, those the last sort of pairings that I want to put together, the hens that I want to get birds from. Believe it or not, there's still one hen in the Canary Room who hasn't laid an egg. She's built a nest, she's been mated. I am persevering with her, but she'll only get another couple of weeks now because it will be too late. She could well have been a late bred bird. It's a bird I bought in. But she's a nice bird, so I'll, you know, if I don't get anything out of her this year, I'll maybe try her again next year. Fife-wise, well, like many fanciers across the UK and Ireland, I've been up and down really with the Fifes and had a really sort of strong start. I've rung over 70 young and I'm close ringing the birds, so that's young at around about 6-7 days old. Not all of them have made it, but the vast majority have. And then weather in the UK has been really mixed. It's blazing sunshine now. If I look at the temperature in the Canary Room, it's 25 degrees in here at the moment. We're filming in the morning, so it will get warmer. Although fortunately the Canary Room is shaded, so it won't get too hot in here. But it's been a real up and down few weeks. But I'm really pleased with the numbers that I've got. I'm really pleased with the numbers I've got, and more importantly, I'm really pleased with the quality which is coming through. So we'll have a look at some of the birds now that are taken away to be weaned. I've got some young birds in sort of flight cages at the bottom. And what I'm doing is, as the birds are being weaned and as I'm looking at cage space in the Canary Room, which is at a premium, I'm looking at those birds. Now, I'm doing a very quick evaluation of them. So those birds which I think have got something outstanding as they've left the nest, and there's plenty of them, I'm trying to put in pairs, a cock or a hen, a cock and a hen rather, or two hens together. So possibly just out of shot here, I've got a couple up here. There's a couple over on the other side of the Canary Room, and there's a couple more down here as well. So I think there's about 8 cages at the moment where I've just got sort of single or two birds together, and you know, ideally if I had the space I'd molt them out in single cages. I'd molt them out certainly 2 at a cage, but that just isn't possible. So the flight cages down at the bottom here, they are just over 4 foot long, and I'm housing the birds that as they come through, as they're being weaned, I'm sort of popping them in there, giving them plenty of egg food, some oyster shell grit as well, couple of drinking stations on there. So, you know, fingers crossed, all will be well with those. So as I say, very much the business end of the season now with the Fifes. I've set some nests just this weekend past, so I've set another half a dozen nests, and I put in another 7 nest pans yesterday. So will still be another round, and hopefully that will take us over the 100 mark of Fifes, which will be the first time I've ever done that. So there'll be plenty of birds available if anybody wants an outcross or a couple of pairs. Just drop me a line, and I'm sure we'll sort something out for you. So quality wise, really pleased. There's some really nice clears coming through now. Very early on had a lot of dark birds coming through, and they're really nice quality. Really pleased as well with the with what's coming out of the cinnamons. I've got a couple of allied to whites there, so a couple of self blues. I've got a fawn which looks quite nice. That'll be this week's bird of the week. There's a variegated cinnamon buff cockbird who is starting to take shape and could be quite a useful bird. I've bred what will probably be a number of cinnamon carriers. There looks like there's a couple of decent ones in there, variegated birds they are, and some selfs as well. And with the cinnamons, they're all going to go back down again now. So the fawn hen, I've got another fawn in the nest. I've got a fawn already on the sticks. She's laid 3 eggs. I haven't set them under her. I've popped them under different Fifes in the room, so I will try and take another round of eggs off her as well. The variegated cinnamon buff hen, she's got 4 chicks in the nest at the moment. I will run the cockbird back in there again. And the allied to white, which I put the dark yellow cock through, she's got just 2 chicks now. One looks like a white ground bird, one looks like a variegated, neither a cinnamon. So I had hoped that I'd get a cinnamon out of that. Would have been a hen, but not to be this round, but we'll give it another go and see. So Fife wise, you know, good season, and more importantly, really nice quality of birds. The position is just where I want it to be on the birds now, so I'm very happy with that. And of course, when it comes to breeding numbers, you know, first and foremost, I'm breeding to replenish my stock for next year. So that's my first ambition, to breed the birds, to give me a pool to select from. Over the last sort of couple of weeks, I've really given that sort of thought to next season and planning ahead. And you know, you might say, gosh Matt, let's get this season out of the way first, but you know, very much part of what stock management is about is that forward planning. There's plenty of birds there. There's plenty of birds that look like they're taking shape. There's only going to be 12 cock Fife canaries retained, so the birds are going to have to be absolutely top draw to stay in that place. And Fife hen wise, I'll probably do a first selection of about 30. And so again, you know, they'll have to be really good to make the grade there, because of course I've got some really nice birds this year, so they're going to have to be better than what's in the room to replace them. So that's really the roundup with the Fifes. As I say, more nests, hopefully more eggs. Hopefully this weather won't do too much damage. Well, we've gone for the Fifes. Let's go and have a look now at the Native Diaries. It has been a season of firsts for me in the Native Diaries, and I have to say, for the majority of native finches, it's been a good year. There is, of course, always the exception, and this year the goldfinches are the exception. Having sort of messed around with building a nest last time, no further progress on that. Not really interested. The cock's been singing and swaying. This warm snap may sort of kick them into a bit of action, but been a little bit disappointing with the goldfinches. The bullfinches, on the other hand, have been a real surprise, a real treat. I'm delighted to say that we've got 4 young baby bullfinches in the nest. At the time of filming, they are nearly 2 weeks old. They've been rung. I am being unusually quiet because I don't really want to disturb them. The diet that I've given them, I've been giving them some cut-up apple for the parents. They've absolutely gone mad for petit pois. They've got mealworms there as well. They've got pinkies, so they've got live food and frozen pinkies, which they've been feeding. They've got egg food and soak seed. I haven't really disturbed the nest, and although I'd seen a few heads pop up, and with bullfinches, my understanding is it can be really quite difficult. I've been really lucky in that the cockbird has also fed them. So that's been really, really good. I've left them really in peace, so much so that I'd only seen 3 heads and only thought there were 3 birds in there until I came to ring them, and was pleasantly surprised to find 4 healthy bullfinch chicks. So still a long way to go with them. So we'll keep everything crossed, but we've got some shots here of me just after I'd rung them, and then some shots of both the cockbird and the hen bird feeding them, which is just a beautiful sight. She's now starting to pick up for the second round, so it'll actually be her 3rd round of eggs, so fingers crossed. If I got 4 away, I'd be absolutely delighted. Any more than that, I might do cartwheels across the garden, which, let's face it, it's worth watching the show just to see. But it's not just the bullfinches that have performed this year for me. The redpolls, those pesky little birds that have given me nothing but heartache. Well, this year things have been a bit different. So we've got 3 redpolls away at the moment, 2 beautiful looking cobalts, and what will be a split pied. I think it's going to be visually normal. So we've got 3 redpolls away. We've got another 4 in the nest, as we can see here from the pied cock. They're feathering up really nicely now. Real nice surprise here as well. This is a cock in from Kenny Masterman. I hadn't realised that he was a carrier for cinnamon. So if I look in the nest here, it looks like there's a couple of silvers. One might be pied, it might not be, it might just be a straight silver. It looks like there is a pied in there. It's got a lot of white on it, the pied, which is lovely to see. And there's a cinnamon in there as well. Now, I understand, like the canaries, it's sex-linked, so that would mean that pole in there is a hen. A couple of the white wings, they've hatched a couple of chicks. They are feeding them. They're not doing a grand job just yet. The other pair of white wings are down on eggs, and the cobalts have gone back down again. So the pied, or the split pied hen in here, just in the cage behind me, she is starting to pick up again and looking to go back down to nest. So if I can get a second nest from there, I'll be absolutely delighted. Speaking of second nests, another first for me this year, the siskins. There's 3 away. Beautiful little things, the siskins. So I've got those away at the moment, and the hen is down again. Now, the male siskins are notorious for destroying eggs. So he's been sort of separated off, divided off, so he couldn't get to the eggs. I did see and managed to catch on film a really good mating, and I was hopeful. She laid 5 eggs. I was hopeful that they would all be full. They haven't hatched, so it doesn't seem to be the case. But what has happened is one has hatched. Now, I say one has hatched with a little bit of uncertainty, because my other pair of redpolls at the top here, the split pied cock and the white pied hen, she's like a chicken, so she's laid lots of eggs and had absolutely no inclination of sitting them. So I popped 2 of them under the siskin. Now, I do believe they were full, so there is a light coloured bird under the siskin. Who knows what it is? It could be a siskin, of course. It could be a pied redpoll. It's not quite ready to be rung, so I will ring it. And as soon as I've rung it, and as soon as it starts to feather up, I'll have a better idea as to what it is. Outside the weather's taken its toll. The greenies did go to nest. There was an egg I saw on the floor of the aviary. We take a shot at them now. I've also popped a pair of normal redpolls in there, moving things around over the last couple of days just to give me a bit of room. And there was a cage here with sort of odds and sods in, a couple of spare redpoll cocks, and I've moved some of those birds now into the all-wire cages. Just to try and give us a little bit more space in the canary room to house the birds. So that's the native diaries so far. So far, so good. Never like to speak too soon with the natives because they are heartbreakers. But hopefully, if the bullies come away, well, be absolutely thrilled. We've got 3 siskins feeding themselves now, 3 poles feeding themselves as well, and the red poles down on eggs. So fingers crossed. It could be a good year in the native diaries. From the native diaries, well, it's that time again. It's the to-do list. So on this month's to-do list, it's very much about sort of preparation and moving forward and the weather and management of the weather. So first thing now, we are into June. The weather in the UK is starting to heat up a little bit, not before time. And so one of the things that I am doing is a change of the drinkers twice a day. So I give fresh water every morning. I'm now giving it every evening as well. So there's no chance that the water can sort of go off and just that overnight. So fresh water morning and night. Yes, it's extra effort, but the birds deserve it, and it's, for me, it's a really important thing to do. Also, the soak seed, I've got some here behind me. I've just given the birds a top up. You can see it's in a little food dish. This is kept in the fridge now. It's sprouting really quickly. So I keep the egg food and the soak seed, and also the pinkies. They're all kept in the fridge at this time of year. You don't want soured egg food or soured soak seed, that will be absolutely fatal to the birds. So of course the other thing is really making room. First round birds coming into starting to come into shape. You've got to move things around. I've got the flexibility in the canary room. This block of cages here to my left is an 8-foot plus block. So at the moment I've got a divider in at the bottom. There's 2 4-foot plus flight cages. They're taking some of the first round fife. One of the other things that I've got is I've installed the wire cages as well, so the new colours and some of the sort of odds and sods of and the Irish, they've gone outside into another room with the wire cages, so that'll just give me a little bit more space. And you can see perhaps behind me the shelf has been cleared and the training cages are up. So what I am starting to do now is run some of the young first round fifes into training cages, really for an initial evaluation, very early on to be making any decisions on them. But the show training, the steady down, I'm looking at shape, I'm looking at position, I'm looking at temperament in a show cage. These birds haven't been in a show cage before, and I'm sort of popping them in, I'm catching them up and just seeing how they get on. And so far so good. I think steadiness is very much bred into a bird. I will of course train the birds, but I'm looking for the birds to be really steady when they first go in. So that's one of the selection criteria for them. And really for June, that's the sort of the challenge for us now. You know, it is about moving things around. The breeding season's coming towards an end. I've made up a few more nest pans for the birds, and you've got to make sure that, you know, there's plenty of room that the birds can molt out as well. So that's our to-do list for this month. Coming up now, it's the Norwich Notebook. Well, you can perhaps see the Norwich in the cages behind me here. Fair to say that not been without its challenges, particularly over the last sort of couple of weeks. The weather really seems to have sort of knocked the Norwich back. Now, they have just started to build up again. What I've done is I put the old cockbird back in here with a white hen. He filled eggs first round for me. I got one young to about 15 days and I lost it and I was devastated. So I've popped him back in the white. I've seen them feeding. She's built up. I'm hoping that they will lay. She has laid already, so I know she's a hen. In fact, the 4 birds here, which are now the core 4 Norwich hens, have all laid. So I'm really hoping she goes down to nest again. The yellow cocker got off Keith. That's fathered a really, really nice looking young. I've got one out of it which is away starting to feed itself. I've got another one in cage 16 in the nest there. That's being fed along with 3 other 5-spire really, really good hens, so fingers crossed that remains the same. And also in cage 24 I've got another couple of Norwich. Again, I've got 3 this way bred, so that's a young buff cockbird again coming from Gary. They're only a couple of days old, these birds, so far too young to even think about counting them. But so far the hen seems to be doing a reasonable job. There's snap in there. Really, really enjoyed spending the time with Keith. So much so, and I'm indebted to Shane Evans at Direct Bird Room Products, Direct Bird Products, because having gone to Keith and seen his egg tweezers, it's the answer to all of my problems, and it genuinely is. So Shane very kindly sent me a pair of egg tweezers, and they are so easy to use. I was fearful that, you know, with my big heavy hands I'd be breaking them here, there and everywhere, but so far so good. Haven't dropped an egg with them yet. So Norwich wise, 4 away, starting to feed themselves, 3 at a very, very tender age, still in the nest. Hopefully we'll get all of those, and then hopefully we'll get one more round out of these birds yet. Hopefully they'll go down again, and we'll get sort of edge towards those double figures, which is very much the target this year with the Norwich. But a bird of real beauty, and you know, I'm already making plans for next year with the Norwich, and making sure that I've got plenty of them available for next year too. So that's our Norwich Notebook. Well, new colour corners next. So the new colours, you know, have really captured the imagination this year, it seems. Not just for myself, but for many of you watching the channel. I've had a number of emails about grey wings and the availability of grey wings at the end of the year, so thank you everybody who's got in touch with the show. Grey wings have been a real success story in the new colour corner this year. I've 2 pairs of grey wings from Julian's Canary Bird Room. They are exceptional quality birds, really, really nice birds, and they've done an incredible job, a really, really good job rearing, feeding, both their own chicks and also Norwich and Fifes as well. So a real lovely addition to the Canary Room, and a real useful addition to the Canary Room. The same can also be said of the yellow mosaics. Yellow mosaics, I've got 5 first rounds. They're away in the wire cages at the moment. So 5 first rounds from the yellow mosaics, and second round they've got a real mixed bag in there. They've got a couple of fifes, they've got a grey wing, and they've got an agate mosaic. I had put a couple of Norwich eggs under there, but unfortunately they didn't hatch. But they've had their work cut out anyway, and have done a really good job. They're going down to nest again. And I'm undecided at the moment. Much will depend on what happens with the Norwich over the next couple of days. If I can, the Grey Wings have laid their 3rd round now. That will be it with the Grey Wings. So they've laid their 3rd round. I'm undecided as to whether just to set them or to drop a couple of 5 eggs in there as well. The Norwich, I was hoping to synchronise the laying. It hasn't happened this time. It did happen egg for egg in the last round, but it hasn't happened this time round. So I'm probably put the Grey Wings back down on their eggs and see if we can't get another half dozen or so. Off a couple of pairs, probably breed in excess of 20 Grey Wings, which is a fantastic return. Be delighted with that if that was any of the other birds in the canary room. Agates have been a bit of a challenge. I've moved them out of the shed now. I have got some young agates, so I've got enough to keep the strain moving forward. But young hens this year, and they just didn't seem to be that interested. So they will probably stay. I'll probably give them another chance next year, because I'm a real fan of the agates. So we'll see with those. So new colour corner wise, it's been a good season. They've done the job they were brought in to do, and they've done the extra bonus job of breeding some really beautiful birds as well. Speaking of beautiful birds, it's time for this week's Bird of the Week. What I find really interesting about this week's Bird of the Week, she's bred out of a self-fawn buff hen and a cinnamon carrying cock. And one of the things that I find really interesting about her, I think she's starting to show some real nice shape here. I think you can see this is going to be a bird that should do quite well. Bucket loads to go on it, absolutely bucket loads to go. But what I find quite interesting is I've hatched 4 young out of the fawn hen, and all of them have been allied to white. So there's 2 visual blues and 2 visual fawns, and one's still in the nest, still it's feathered up, but it's nowhere near ready yet. But this is a bird, that could well form part of the cinnamon line moving forward. I'm thinking for the cinnamon line that I really want to sort of put the blues in there as well, so I can have them as a sort of blue and allied to white line. But this week's Bird of the Week, it's a heavily variegated fawn, and I think it's a hen. Well, that's all we've got time for today. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the show. I hope you've watched till the end as well. I will be announcing the competition winners, the 10,000 subscriber competition winners on Facebook early in June. So if you haven't seen that, well done to those who have won. I got 2 people who guessed it correct. They're on 94 cages in the canary room. So well done, both of you. The next time out will be with Terry Kelly. It's a really, really cracking watch. Terry's bird room is incredible. Terry's garden is incredible, and I had the pleasure of spending an afternoon with Terry and his good lady Pam. And it was a really, really wonderful day. So my thanks to Terry and Pam. Watch the episode. You'll have a laugh as much as learn a great deal about birds too. So we've got more on the roads to come. We'll catch up with the trials and tribulations in the canary room. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel, please do. Please share our videos as well if you get the chance. Until next time, everyone, take care.